What's an educated mama?
Hello, I'm Ryan Jordan, and welcome to The Educated Mama. During this podcast, we will learn from experts, entrepreneurs, creators, and leaders who are also mothers responsible for all the things. Let's celebrate women, learn a few mom hacks, and discuss the beautiful mess of motherhood. We're all learning together, right? Today's guest is child psychiatrist Dr. Zabina Bhasin. She is a diversity and inclusion expert and entrepreneur. As a first-generation American, Zabina grew up surrounded by diversity, and she launched In KidZ, cultural-focused toys and products to give families everywhere access to the world's rich traditions. As a mom of two and physician, Dr. Z's goal is to make inclusion the normal and a daily part of family life. This dynamic speaker and entrepreneur has been featured on Good Morning America, and she lives by her mother's motto: "We are more similar than we are different. Our differences make us unique, but they do not separate us." Let's meet our guest. Hi, Dr. Z. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful to have you here and know that you're a DEI expert. So I just want to jump into our conversation and let's talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And as you know, we're both moms, and
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, what is the best way to incorporate this education into our children's lives?
So for children, it's specifically diversity and inclusion. Equity and belonging start coming a little bit later, but for children between the ages of 2 to 11 years old, diversity and inclusion come through reading books, doing puzzles, collecting diverse toys, making your playroom more diverse, bringing in cultures that they're friends with, so they're peers. Obviously, we have so many diverse friends, and we also don't know their backgrounds. And that's one of the reasons our company In KidZ was started, is because I was part of a group of moms that I was like, how do I not know your backgrounds? What am I going to teach my children if I don't myself educate myself? So it's really taking that step as parents and learning about the friends and peers around them. So then we can diversify our homes and our playrooms and all of the things that we want to give to our children. So it gives them a little bit more of better global world that they haven't seen yet. So we're already doing it as young as 2 years old and opening their minds to it.
Wonderful. And I was just about to ask you, I know that children would start absorbing information and cognitively understand situations. And tell me a little more. You said starting at 2 years old is a good time to introduce? Okay.
Yeah, at 2 years old, because in my household, we started reading to them when they were babies, right? But it's at 2 years old, they start understanding the stories we're reading to them. They understand the coloring books that they have in front of them. They understand the difference in the colors. We're trying to teach them, this is green, this is yellow, this is blue. So at 2 years old, they're cognitively looking at things and understanding what it is. Do they comprehend it? Not always, but that's where we start giving them that information. Then they go to about 5 years old. Now they're recognizing the eyes, the noses, the color of their skin, their features, and then the features around them, the peers they have. So that's when you're going to start talking about not only diversity, but inclusivity of who these children are. And so this is the slow path that we take. But in that time, in your playrooms and in your homes, if we have products and toys and items that you can show them from all over the world, you're going to already start seeing them talk about it. And they're going to go to their schools and be like, oh, I know where you're from. I know where you're from. So it's already creating this empathetic kindness that they're going to start telling people, we accept you exactly how you are because we're learning it. Again, I understand parents are busy. It's not the easiest way to do. But the simplest thing to do is read your child a book. There are so many diverse books out there. And if there's no reading time, I will tell you, Alexa is great. Right now, there's a lot of things out there that you can even put the books up for your children and they'll read to them. So the imagination will start getting their minds working as well.
Thank you. Those are some good tips. And I know we're living in a world now where we have access to so many resources that I truly believe it doesn't feel hard to incorporate this into our children's worlds, as long as we're mindful of doing it. So I want to talk about In KidZ. This is such a wonderful idea. So can you tell me more about how you came up with the idea, and for our listeners, what exactly is In KidZ?
So In KidZ is my company that we started a little bit over a year ago. The concept of it honestly came up in 2019. We didn't launch till 2020, but it came up from two reasons. One, me growing up in a very diverse world and a diverse community, but still having those effects of being born and raised in the United States and being bullied. Not only being bullied for my culture, my food, you've heard of lunchroom bullying, for the way I looked or the way I talked or the things I would wear. It went beyond that sometimes because there was not an understanding to the other children of who I am. And that's where my mom's, saying of that we are actually more similar than we are different, and our differences make us unique, but they don't separate us. She came into our schools when I was in about first or second grade, and she started teaching the students with my teacher, not only about my culture and my traditions and my religion, but also comparing it to what they do at home. That's where the similarities started coming in, because we actually have so many similarities when it comes to that. Our clothing, our foods, our attire, the way we speak. Yes, languages are different, but the meanings behind the languages, and that's why we put our language cards, and I'll go into that in a minute, but they actually have the same thing. Like there's 10 words that children all over the world know. School, mom, dad, bathroom, love. These are the common words that every child knows. And that's what she tried to do. She said, let's do these comparisons and show you that these differences are actually very similar. Now, we're not all the same, because if we were boring. The world would be, but it's really accepting those differences as well and accepting others. So that was the meaning behind it. The second reason was my own children, because I live in Southern California, and I was telling you before was that my group of friends that my children started hanging out with, I didn't know their own background. Now, I'm a physician, I'm educated, right? So I should be like, oh, you're from here. I know a little bit about geography, but you really don't. Just because you know what the books teach us, we don't go beyond that. What is the Russian culture? What is the Moroccan culture? What is the Iranian culture? Or what is the Guatemalan culture? Comes from us talking to each other. So we started having events at our houses. I would invite them to my South Asian events. They would invite me over there. We would just start doing it. And then our kids would start wearing, I would bring Indian clothes to the girls, or the boys would start, we just started creating this path. And, they say when mom's minds come together, I was like, how many parents would love this if we had these in our homes? And we started creating culture boxes. We literally just took parents and created a list of all the parents we knew from different cultures. And we said, let's start talking to everyone. And how can we create these culture boxes and have people take them to their homes or learn beyond what they're learning in school? It's giving them craft, sensory items, books, toys, coloring books, you name it, our box has it, puzzles, so that 2-year-old to the 11-year-old, like I said, is already starting to learn. And it's more than geography, it's learning about traditions and cultures. The meaning and mission and vision behind the box is to create empathetic, kind children that not only accept one another as they are, but they're also aware of different cultures. So they have an awareness at a young age. And that's really where In KidZ was conceptualized.
It's such a phenomenal idea. I know that me growing up in Wisconsin, I didn't have a lot of access to different cultures. I grew up in a very small town, and I think about how much my children are exposed to now with education and celebration of different cultures. I remember when I first moved to LA, I was like, can I go to Shabbat dinner? Or can I experience this with you? Because I was like so excited to learn, and my children are the same way. So if you spend time educating and celebrating them and different cultures, then they want to learn more about it too. And it's right. So much fun when you get to go into somebody else's home and have a little taste of what their life is like. And so I think this is incredible. I love this idea. And the parents are learning too, I'm sure. That's the best.
Oh, absolutely. The reviews that I get, they're so excited because they had, so our Australia box, one of the reviews that I just got, like I literally got this email yesterday, was, I didn't know anything about this. Like, I'm reading the book with my son. And I thought, she's like, I'm actually from Australia. And I'm reading the book thinking, okay, I'm pretty educated in it. I went to school there. I went to high school there. She goes, I didn't know some of this stuff. And I'm like, I'm learning. Personally, I'm learning, because as we create these boxes, I'm like, what would I want to learn to teach my children that another parent would learn? And so it's so amazing that people even from their countries don't even know some of the things that are in these boxes. It's actually wonderful.
One of the things you talked about, you mentioned while you were telling me about the experiences that you had growing up, was you mentioned that you were, subject to bullying. And I know that you're a doctor now, and I just love to touch upon what are some of the biggest forms of bullying that you're seeing for children nowadays?
Nothing's changed. There's a little story behind one of the episodes that happened recently within our Asian American community that I saw happen to my own brother. In the UK, about a few months ago, a little Sikh boy was walking to school, and he literally, so Sikhs in the Indian community and the religious community wear turbans and they covered their heads. Two boys basically hit his head, pulled his hair out of his turban, and threw him to the ground and beat him up. And that's when we started our hashtag Moms for Diversity, which has become a huge platform for moms all over the world to make sure that they go out there and use that hashtag about everything they want to represent for their children. And we didn't do it just with Sikh moms. We did it with moms from the UK, from Canada. And that little boy, 20 years ago, that happened to my own brother. And I'm sorry to get emotional behind this because I'm still seeing it. But children don't learn that. Children are not innate with this. They learn this. And that's what we want to do at In KidZ. That's what I want to speak about. That's what I want to teach to teachers, parents, administrators, anyone raising a child, an uncle, an aunt, that we are those leaders for those children, and they mimic everything we see.
We have to do everything we can as parents to foster a loving environment for every single child that is living in this world. And the hate crimes in the Asian communities is absolutely heartbreaking. And I think to myself, I have a son and a daughter. And Dr. Z, what are some things that I can say to my children if they're noticing their peers saying stuff like this? Because there's going to be circumstances that happen and we're not going to see these things happen. So how do I best prepare my kids for this? What are some of the things I can say to them?
So if they see you simply acting very empathetic and accepting everything we want them to be, they're going to follow that lead. Now, having a conversation with them, it's not the easiest when they're young, right? It's really hard. But I always use Daniel Tiger for my younger one, and I use what the other one's older into to see how, because right now Disney, Nickelodeon, they've done a great job of bringing diverse cartoons into the world, that I use those characters to say, what do you think Mira would do if she had a situation like that? Because for the younger ones, like 2 to about 6 years old, you can do that. Once you hit first grade, and then you're going first, second, third, fifth, well, even fifth is a little later, but up until like maybe third or fourth grade, then now you can have those a little bit more intimate conversations with them, because they're seeing it within their peers now. And we want to have very direct conversations with them. Okay, this is what this, because they're going to start noticing what is discrimination, what is prejudice, what is the color of the skin, what is colorism, what is bullying, what is talking back. All of these adult-like, our children are actually much smarter than we think they are, and these kind of conversations need to happen. But there are lots of tactics to it. And I have an amazing person, Reena Patel. Which I will introduce you to. She's a parentologist. She's a parenting expert, specifically how to use tactics to have these conversations through play, through drawing. Like for my children, I do drawings all the time. I do crafts all the time to have these conversations. We did a Play-Doh thing where we had different colors, and we said, let's talk about the different colors of people's skin. The crayons that have come out. Again, with the older children, she's also very open about having open and direct conversations about that. But again, you have to look at the situation, and I can't tell you this is exactly how you want it. But I can say kids are very resilient and they know exactly what's happening. So to be open and honest with them is very important, especially with like even our younger ones. My 5-year-old daughter, when I don't like putting the news on, but I think that one day the Capitol was getting, and it just was on, and she goes, "What is that?" And I said, "Amara, that's chaos." I mean, I didn't have to go into detail about it. And then I explained her what chaos was. And it was the simplest way to tell her that, oh, that's not right. They shouldn't be doing that. It's good versus bad. So that's what I've used, and that's what I put out there.
These are great tips. I know for all of us parents, no matter what walk of life we've come from, is that teaching our children ways to live in the world that is inclusive. Dr. Z, I just think you're a box of knowledge. I feel like I could talk to you for hours, and I appreciate you sharing all of your intimate stories with me. And I just want to tell you, whenever you're in space with me, I create space for love, and you don't ever have to feel like you need to apologize for being emotional, because, for me, it's crying and laughing are both emotions that we need to go through.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I know it's hard though, when you're put on the spot and it's so raw right now. It's raw.
It's really raw because, I understand sometimes, like, it's just, I've been saying this over and over again. It's not about who did it, why they did it. What are we looking? What is the FBI and police looking for? What the reasoning behind it? No, it is a bigger picture. There is hate in this world that needs to be removed. Mm-hmm. And it's not why did it happen and who did it and what's the reason. How are we fixing it? What is our plan to make sure not only our generation A, which we're going to leave the world to in about 40 years, what are we doing for these millennials? What are we doing for these Gen Zs to say, let's stop this. Let's make sure. We started with the Black Lives Matter movement. Great. That conversation started. Now it's this one. Okay, we're having these conversations, but what are we doing? What are our actions? And what I'm trying to do is in kids. Let's start with that younger generation. Let's make sure we teach them, give them everything they need, their resources, that when they're in their 20s and 30s, that they're going to say, no, this is not norm anymore. For a long time, we have accepted the norm about avoiding to talk about race, diversity, culture, equity, inclusion. For a long time. We as a society today have to not be blind to these topics anymore. It has to be an open conversation. And we're now only recognizing publicly that these topics perpetuate privilege and prejudice at the same time. So this is our boiling point. Well, this is my boiling point. I mean, a lot of parents especially, and the place where there is no more room for justifications or explanations, it is a time for change, tolerance, and acceptance. And that's it. That's what we need to do.
Amen to that. I am with you. I am with you 100% of the way. And part of me feels like, okay, my parents' generation and their parents' generation, we can't fix all of that, right? Like, or maybe we can. I really don't know. But the reality is we can be of service to our kids, and we can do our best to make sure that we're raising generations of children that can now change and can now be more inclusive. So I love that you're starting with the kids, and I love that you're getting products into people's homes that celebrate life. And this conversation is so important, and I'm just grateful that you came here today to just discuss all of this. And, I would love to celebrate you too. What is next for you on your agenda? Is there anything coming up next for you as a mom, doctor, as an expert? What is next for you?
For me right now, next, so you said children's book author. I'm not there yet. We're in the process of it. So I don't know what, everyone likes to say that, I'm not there yet. I'm in the process of it. We're working on a full-fledged idea behind that for the In KidZ story. We're pivoting a little and revamping our boxes to make them a little more theme oriented. So there will be a new product coming out with the In KidZ boxes that is a little knowledgeable toy that's going to dive into the country specifically. And we're looking to make them a little more theme oriented. So it's like if you go to the country, you have this doll that's going to take you with them. So it's a little something different coming up, which I'm really excited about. For me personally, a lot more speaking opportunities. I really am in the process of going out there and talking to teachers and parents and administrators and women to generally women empowerment as well, because I am part of the Chai Mamas, which is a South Asian women community. So women and children have always been my, niche that I work with and I talk to and I work, uplift. But I think it's more about going out there and doing these speaking opportunities. I have been blessed to have been told that I'm an expert. I don't know what that means, but I'm being who I am. I'm being my authentic self, but the world has put that word on me. And for me, it's just speaking what my truth and my belief is and what I've learned, what I've been educated in, and really taking that to the next level now. So those are the few things. There's a lot more in the horizon coming, but these are probably going to come in more in the near future. So you'll see those very soon.
Thanks, Dr. Z.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode and you had some great aha moments. I am so passionate about empowering women, and I can't thank you enough for your support. If you know an inspiring mama or you are an inspiring mama, send them our way. Be sure to tune in every Wednesday, and please like, follow, and subscribe to The Educated Mama. Write a review, leave us a comment, share this podcast with your friends. I'm Ryan Jordan, founder and CEO of Educated Nannies. You got this, mama.